Um, yeah, so this is training on, oh, give me one second here, on security and privacy, specifically geared to safe online shopping. Um, and we're going to go over stuff like identifying safe websites, searching reviews about these websites, or doing a research about websites, password security and storage, and a couple of payment options, and storing your receipts and stuff like that. So share my screen. There we go. And this is the agenda for today, which will be mailed out. And I'm just going to open up a new window here. And if you have, Jenny, if you have any questions about any of the steps I'm taking while I'm taking them, just feel free to ask. You know,
Okay.
a lot of times,
Will do.
a lot of times I do things different than somebody else does. You know, for example, I was at a training and I was searching for an email and somebody just said, oh, just scroll down. And I kind of search for it in the tab, or I open a website in a different way. So if you ever want any shortcuts or different ways to do things that I do, just let me know.
Will do.
Review it. So, so just because you mentioned Amazon and Land's End, I'm going to use that as an example. So, you know, sort of the basics, getting when you're shopping online, right? You're going to go to the website of the business organization or store that you want. In this case, we'll type in Amazon. And I just usually click it here. I don't have it bookmarked. I actually don't shop at Amazon quite often, but I know everybody does. So here it is, the first one that pops up. And what I want to show you is that Amazon probably has, if I click on the search engine where the website is right here, if I double click there, I can see the beginning of it starts with HTTPS. And anytime a website has that, it usually means that it's a secure website. That's sort of a way for a website to be secure is to get through that HTTPS. And so Amazon has that. And another way, if I wanted to double check, is there's an arrow right next to the website right here. And if I click on it, I can see that the second tab here says connection is secure, and there's a lock right there on the left. So it's telling me that the connection is secure. It's a safe website to go into. And sometimes you'll see that little lock right there, right in front of the HTTPS. So there might not be an arrow. Let's say if you're on Firefox or Safari. Actually, maybe I should ask you, Janet, what search engine do you use?
Google.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have is your browser like Google Chrome? Or
yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, so this is probably very similar to what you'll see on your screen. And so I can see it's HTTPS, and the connection is secure right there. So great. Now, just for the sake of an example, I'm going to say, I'm going to try to look at another website that's much smaller, maybe a small business nearby. And I know there's a small bakery that sells cookies in my town, and here it is. And so, I simply type that into the search engine, just like I did for Amazon. Now this is a smaller website and or business, and may not even have a website. But one of the best ways to view if it's okay is to look at the reviews for this business or website. So if I go here, usually one of the first search engine results is going to be on Google. And sure enough, it's right here on my right. And I can see that there's 114 Google reviews, and it's about 4.8 stars out of I'm sorry about that, out of 5. So that's pretty good, right? It seems like a pretty trusted website. I can even click on the reviews if I wanted to and read some of them. A lot of stars. So it's looking like this business is pretty legitimate. Another way to do that, if you wanted to research or review a business, there's a great website called Yelp. Have you heard of Yelp?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and they even have an app. The Yelp app is pretty easy to get, but Yelp will review businesses. It's pretty user friendly, and they have users on there, kind of just like we saw with Google reviews, that will comment, and I just saw it. So there it is, May Bakery. Type that into Yelp, search engine on Yelp, and let's see what we got. I think these are some. Okay, these are some. And here it is, May's Cookies and Creamery, and it's actually 5 stars out of 13. So it's looking like a pretty legitimate business. If I wanted to get more information on it, I could click on it and maybe read the reviews or look at the store hours. They also have pictures on here. So
So you're saying 5 stars out of 13 indicates it's a legitimate business? My mind went to, gee, why not more stars?
Oh, that's a good question. So so here we go. We can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's these stars right here are all sort of filled in red, meaning 5 out of 5 stars. Now this 13 right here means the number of reviews,
Okay.
the number of people who commented on them. So there should be, if I scroll down, there should be 13 reviews that they've counted. And
Okay. So the number of reviews is not significant. It's more the number of stars.
Yeah, the number of stars is
the way. Okay.
Yeah, just as an example, if I go back, I saw that there was another business. See right here that there's a May Chinese restaurant, probably not too close to me, but you can see it's 3 out of the 5 stars, right? And then there's 21. There's a 21 right next to it, which means 21 people reviewed it.
Okay.
So the more, as a general rule of thumb, the more stars you have, the better, reviewed your business is. And then in addition to that, if you wanted to also see the number, how many people reviewed it, 481 compared to 13, and it's still got 4 out of 5, that means it's probably pretty good, right? Sometimes there's even thousands of reviews. So the more stars and the more reviews, usually the more credible or better the business is.
Okay.
But for a local business like the one in my town that has like 10,000 people, 13 reviews, 5 out of 5, I would trust that. And now, since I've done my research a little bit, I went to Yelp. I looked at the Google reviews here. and just you know, in case this doesn't pop up, you know, generally it will for a business, but you can always type it into Maps, and Google Maps will um, always give you some options. And if you click on it, it'll show you the reviews, the times, like that. I use Google Maps quite often for stuff like this. So sure enough, Google Maps, if I'm on here, it's got May's cookies, 114 reviews. It's the same information.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So now that I've seen that, I'm pretty comfortable to order through this vendor. I don't see a website. Let's see. Oh yeah, here it is. Here's their website. If I click on it, and then you know, I recognize actually that logo there as well. So again, I trust this, and you know, I might proceed to order now. However, you know, even before doing that, precaution that sometimes I do is suggested, you know, is looking at the location of it. Okay, it's River Falls, not another May's out, you know, in the US somewhere, or
Mhm.
in another country. This is where I live. And you know, something I have done in the past is actually call the establishment. You know, if I'm super unsure, you know, maybe I want to get the holiday hours because it's a local business. They might, you know, they're not like standard business hours, or even times sometimes, or maybe they're busy, or maybe they don't have, you know, the chocolate cookies that I really want. So I want to double check and call them and make sure they're legitimate. And then, you know, I would order now, probably once I've called and done my research. And, you know, every website, obviously, I'm sure you know, has their different ways of doing stuff. So before we keep going there, let me see if I wanted to cover. So we talked about checking for HTTPS and the lock, doing our research and reviews. Something that I'll point out, maybe on a bigger website, going back to Amazon, or I don't know if you have, do you have Facebook, Janet?
A little bit. I don't use it much, but yes.
Yeah. So Amazon, not so much, but I was just on Facebook the other day. I was shopping in the marketplace. It's an option now on Facebook that you can shop there. And I think it's a great sort of way to buy new or used products, right? Even locally. However, I did see that there was, you know, such a good deal. It was like a Dyson vacuum that was generally like $500 or more for like $99. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. So I clicked on it because I was like, okay, Facebook, you know, is a legitimate website. However, that vendor on there, you know, as I clicked on the website, I realized that it was, and looked at the website, looked at, you know, the lock, and then, you know, just scrolled around the website. I realized that this deal, it sounded too good to be true, and sure enough, that website was a little bit not legitimate looking.
So it was a third-party vendor
Yeah,
listed?
so I think you can have like ads on Facebook and stuff like that as another party, right? Especially with the if you're trying to sell something on marketplace, they'll allow for ads, right? But you know, sometimes those ads could be from somebody who's trying to scam you, or get information or something like that. So just beware of a deal that's too good to be true. Probably is, and if you do end up thinking it's legitimate, and make sure to do those steps that we just talked about.
Right, right. Good example.
checking the lock or the HTTPS, you know, maybe even calling the business before we go down that rabbit hole.
So if you had tried to buy through the website, you would have lost your $99. If
You know,
they,
that's possible. You know, to be honest, I didn't click on it. I didn't want to go down that path. But
course.
yeah, sometimes, you know, this stuff happens where you lose your money. Not only do you lose your money, but now that person or organization has your information, your credit card information. Maybe they have your address or stuff that you've entered into their
Of
website,
course.
right?
Yeah.
So it's not to scare you or anything like that. You know, it's not as common because you know, it seems like you shop at like some of the bigger names and stuff like that. But sometimes if you shop at smaller ones, like example was these May's cookies, or if you have an ad by somebody on a legitimate website and you click on it and now it's a third party that, you know, website that doesn't look maybe as legitimate, just something to keep in mind.
Okay.
Okay, so another thing I will say is to try to avoid shopping online, like in a public space, for a couple of reasons. One, you generally, let's say you're at a cafe, you know, and you have to pull out your credit card to enter your number or type in your information to your screen. You know, people around you, you never know, somebody might take a look at it or you know, take that information, use it for their own benefit. You know, again, that's pretty rare. I'm not here to scare you or anything, Janet. It's sort of just best practices. If you can shop online, if you can wait to shop at home, probably best. And it's probably a more secure, familiar Wi-Fi. Most business, a lot of the big businesses, you know, like maybe Subway or Starbucks will probably have like a protected Wi-Fi. But you know, it might be worth waiting until you get home.
Okay.
Of course, that's not always possible. I know, like, you know, my friend will call me and say, hey, you know, there's 2 tickets left to tonight's movie, you know, and I'm not going to wait till I go home because I might lose those tickets or something like that. I'm probably going to do it there, but I might be conscious of, you know, being aware that nobody's looking at information or stepping outside somewhere where it might be more safe.
And would you know when that was happening, if that was happening?
Not really, because well, you might, but you know, if somebody's like sort of, you know, decides to look at your credit card or your address or your PIN number while you're doing it, you know, it's likely that will store that information for later use. You know, it's
Okay.
I doubt they would like right away. You know, that'd be pretty slick, but storing that for later use. And then if any another sort of best practice, if any website asks you for while you're shopping online, if they ask you for your social security number or a lot of personal information, you know, that's kind of a red flag right there. You never need to give your social security number to shop online, right? Most you need to give is what your credit card information contains, which might be your address and the security code number on the back. But you know, if they start asking you for personal information and stuff like social security or you know, maybe your license plate number or something like that, that might be a red flag, and I would definitely not continue. Okay, so just covered some of those small tips there. Um, Now, I'll move on to the kind of let's see, trying to order online here, but what I want is for them to prompt me for a password. Let me see if I can sign in. I don't think I have an Amazon account, but I can take a look. Um, oh, yeah, so if I wanted to create an Amazon account, um, just using this as an example. And again, I've checked that this was HTTPS. It's got a it's got a lock right there, so it's a secure website. Big name like Amazon is. I'm comfortable typing in my name, my email, to create an account, and then a password. And this is kind of what I wanted to get to next. So I'm sure at this point, Janet, you've probably had to enter a lot of passwords with a lot of different requirements.
Mhm.
Sort of just briefly to talk about general rule of thumb for passwords is you want to have a password that has different characters, symbols, and numbers on it, or I should say letters, symbols, and numbers. And the reason for that is it just makes it a lot more secure and harder for a hacker or somebody trying to scam you to do so, versus a password, let's say just like your name, or your name and birth date, which if they had your name and God forbid they somehow knew your birth date, it's kind of a simple thing to know. A lot of times maybe they looked at your Facebook or saw your birth date and they knew your name, and let's say that was my password. I just had Alex 08290. That'd be a pretty easy one for them to
Right.
sort of get. So making sure that and I wish this would let me take a look, but you know what, I could just pull up a document just to show you here. So I'm creating a password. I want to make sure that it has maybe some capitals. So I might just go, and it could be random. It really could just be whatever. So I might go J78, maybe an exclamation point, a star, and then maybe another letter. And you want to make it, they say 10 to 15, but I'm sure like 8 is probably enough.
Mm.
But and then maybe I could even put a word in there, fellow. And so I have a couple of capitals in there. I have a number. I have two symbols in there and a word. It would be pretty hard for somebody to guess this. And
Do you recommend changing your password? I tend to use the same basic format, might add 1 or 2 characters, but it's easier for me to remember. Is that a bad thing?
it's not the worst thing, but I definitely can empathize with you of just like having, because today, you have to remember like 100 different passwords, for so many different sites. So it's a general rule of thumb, for security and safety, that you have a password for each different website or password prompt that's different. And the reason being is if you use the same password for a lot of websites, if somebody gets one password, from you, they can access, the multitude of websites or places that you now have, right?
Yeah,
If I just use Alex8290, for everything, then you can go ahead and go on my bank. You can go.
Yeah, understood. Okay, well, that's a good reminder to get a little more creative with my passwords.
Yeah, and it could even be like a saying, it could be like Alex Alex enjoys ICS, and maybe like in when I started was 1201. So something you might remember. It could be a saying or something.
Mhm. Okay, that's a good suggestion.
But I will say, because I agree with you, and it is an issue to have so many passwords to be worrying about. I will say with your browser, Google Chrome, since you told me you use Google Chrome, it always gives you an option. Well, a lot of times it gives you an option to store or save that password. And I would recommend clicking yes, or store that password. And the reason why is because Google Chrome and Firefox and Safari, they're pretty secure browsers, and they act, and if they're able to save your passwords, then they kind of act as a password manager for you. Meaning that when you go to that website, let's say you're Amazon, you don't need to enter your password. It's either already there for you, or there's a prompt. Oh, hold on, give me 1 second. See, as soon as I went to the password, it says use password saved in your Google account.
Okay.
And so there should be a prompt or something that will allow you to use the password that you decided to save in your Google Chrome or your Safari or Firefox. So that's a great way to manage all these different kinds of passwords, right? And Jenna, I couldn't agree with you more. And I'd be lying if I didn't say I had the same password for some different websites, right? I do try to my best to vary the passwords, and especially now that I'm learning more about digital literacy. But it's also helpful to know that our browsers can help us save these passwords, these different passwords. And if you ever sort of aren't sure where your passwords are in Google, you can always type in password manager. So password manager, if you just type that into the Google Chrome, you can see it'll be the first one on here as I click enter. And I might have spelled manager wrong. Sorry about that. And sure enough, here it is, Google Password Manager. I click on that. It takes me right to my password manager account because I'm already signed into Google, right? So it'll take me right to my password manager. And then from here, should be, give me 1 second, Janet. Let me try this again. Password. Manage passwords. Okay. So here it is. And you know what? You can actually go to it from your settings. So if you go to the 1 second, the settings on your Google, you can, which is this which is this in the top right, you can see the 3 dots. You go to your settings. Under settings, there will be under privacy and security. Let's see. Under security. I'm sorry, Janet, give me 1 second.
No, this is helpful.
Just had it. This is the Google password manage passwords. Okay, so it's under the settings autofill tab.
Autofill.
So autofill, and then you can see the passwords come up. And it says save passwords, and I have it for my ICS alex.connectix right here. And for your personal one, there's probably going to be a ton of them. For my ICS account, I don't really visit any other websites, or I shouldn't say I don't visit any other websites. I should say that I don't really store passwords because I'll use my personal account. But just to show you my personal one, if I click on my settings, it's up here. Oh, you know what? This is my settings. Settings is up here. And I'm going to go to autofill. Here we go, passwords. You can see that these are all for my personal one. I have saved passwords. I have plenty of saved passwords, and
wow.
never saved. It'll show you, and it'll even check. It'll even show you check passwords. There's a sign here that says for compromised passwords. So I have to look into that, and I've actually looked into this, and it's these are websites that.
Why are they compromised?
That's a good question. They could be compromised for many different reasons. One of them being maybe I used the same password for this website as another one. Maybe somebody was looking at my information somehow. I'm not too sure, but Google will let you know if it's a compromised password, and then you can change it. So again, I would recommend storing your passwords in your browser when given the option to, so you don't have to memorize all of them.
Okay, good tip.
And I think that's all I had on passwords. Oh, lastly, I mean, I kind of lean old-fashioned myself, like kind of old school. So I also, and it's been recommended, if you can write down your passwords on a piece of paper, and that piece of paper you can store somewhere safe, obviously. That's also recommended, because again, there's a ton of passwords that you have to memorize and all that. And
how about putting it in your contacts in your phone? Is that not a good idea? I've done that before, just because I didn't want to write it down and keep track of the paper and have it with me at all times.
Putting it in your contacts in your phone?
Yep.
So
under Land's End, my password is X. Under Macy's, it's Y. I mean, I've done that. Is that a privacy concern?
I think that's a creative idea, Janet. And I know I've used like some sort of app on my phone called Notes to store passwords. I think it's the only reason that's sort of not, I guess, best practices or recommended is because, again, if somebody opened your phone, if you didn't have a password on it or something like that, they could easily view that. Same thing with my notes. And all this stuff is not like 100% secure. If somebody went and stole my laptop and opened it up and they just went to websites because I had my password stored in the browser, they could visit those websites, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
nothing is 100% guaranteed. These are sort of just like best practices.
Right.
If you have a secure contacts or your phone has a password or some kind of additional security barrier, that might be a good option for you. I know it's definitely a creative and easy way of doing it, but I think the ones that are recommended are using your browser or some other password manager. And if you're able to write it down on a piece of paper and secure that, that's another option as well.
Okay.
So those are kind of the, and then another sort of safety protocol is to use, whenever possible, when you're shopping online, try to use your credit card as opposed to a debit card. And when I say credit card, I also mean like something like an online credit card or like PayPal, which is a pretty secure website. Stuff that's not maybe directly linked to your bank account. So like a credit card, it's not linked to your like savings account, whereas opposed to like a debit card might be. So if you were using your debit card and somebody got that information, that's linked to your bank account and maybe more.
So using PayPal, I've used it once or twice, but kind of new to me, or Venmo, you pay through that and then, but you still have to, how does PayPal get paid to make the purchase? I don't know if the question's clear, but.
Yeah, so PayPal, you would set up an account on PayPal, right?
Right.
And then in that account, they would ask for your credit card information, right? It's kind of like you would purchase something on Amazon, except they would ask for your information, store that information, and then you could use that. Let's say if I went to a bigger site like Amazon, they have an option for you to pay with PayPal. And when you click on pay with PayPal, because you've already made an account with PayPal, they have your information, you're able to do that.
And it's secure. That's your point.
It's secure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And again, if I go on PayPal and, we all know what it is, just like we all know what Amazon is. But, I can always double check that it's HTTPS, it has the lock. Yep, sure enough, it does. And it's legitimate. And so, yes. So if you can't set up PayPal or it's challenging, I have a PayPal account. However, I don't use it often. Mostly I just use my credit card. Using your credit card is fine. Just pointing out that it's preferred over using your debit card because it's not linked to your bank account.
Okay.
And then moving on. Okay, so we talked about passwords and stuff like that. Let's think. The only couple of things that are left in terms of shopping online. So it's kind of like, once you've taken all these steps, you're on the Amazon website, you made sure it was secure. You entered in your password through your Chrome browser, right? It was able to save, and you entered it in. You typed in your credit card. You looked for your item. You typed in your credit card to see. Let me see if I can, to see if. I'm sorry. You typed in your credit card so that you could pay for it, and the next step would be to check your bank statements. And I'm not saying check this hourly or daily. Maybe once a week would be good to just make sure that that business either charged you or didn't overcharge you the amount that you paid for, right? And plugging your credit card statement is I've actually done this in the past, and it's a way that I've actually found some fraudulent charges on my account. It might have been the only way at one point, because a lot of times you just pay for it. Let's say it's like a movie or something like that. And then you just sort of like watch the movie. Like there's no product that comes to you, right? So you don't, you can't, if there's a product that comes to you, you know that you received it and paid for it. But if it's something that's sort of like gasoline or something that's very ephemeral, you're not gonna know if there's a fraudulent unless you're checking your statements, right? Sometimes the bank will call you. Let's say you went to a bar and they overprice you $500. Sometimes your bank will call you, but a lot of times they won't. So it's a good thing to check your credit card statement. Just scroll down and see like, oh, these charges look legitimate.
And then you'd call the bank if you have a dispute.
Yeah, definitely. You call your the number on your credit card or your debit card, and they should have a department for fraudulent activity.
Okay.
And I've had to do this a couple times, unfortunately, but I've been able to catch. And the other thing if you use a credit card, there's zero amounts of liability. So like, let's say somebody stole $500 from you through your credit card. That doesn't come out of your pocket. The credit cards generally have zero liability. As opposed to like if they took it from your bank account, my guess is that they'd probably give you the money back, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
And then I just want to show you one thing beside viewing your statements. It's always good to store or save your receipts, any verification codes, or tracking number. So once a purchase is made, let me see. I'm going to try it with May's cookies. Going back to my small business here. But I'm gonna just quickly show you how to save that information. Okay. And here we go. We gotta click on this. Add to order. Sure. So this, because I verified this website already, here it is. And let's say I'm checking out. I ordered 10-inch large decorated cookies. You know, I'm going to place my order. Well, I have to put in my email, right? My and my card number and all this. You know, this is all standard stuff that that we usually have to do. But at the end of this, and I'm not going to purchase these, but at the end of this, there's usually like, here's your verification code or your receipt, right? So sometimes they'll email that to you, but a lot of times they might not. And a good way to store that is by saving the page where the verification code or the tracking code is. So the way you could do that is on any page, any website, when you're on the page, you simply click on the page, you know, at sort of a blank space. You know, don't click on like a button or something like that. They'll take you to another screen. Just a blank area. Click on the screen. Let's say if I wanted to save this order summary right here because I needed to show maybe my boss or something before I ordered. So I'm going to click on the screen, and there's a print button here. So you're going to hit on print, and the function is print to save. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, Janet. You might.
No, I'm not.
So what you're going to hit, and then I know it sounds kind of silly to hit the print button, but this is, you know, very standard practice. So if you want to save something, you'll first you click on print, and what it'll do is it'll pop up a window, a print window, that will sort of show you an outline of like what you're printing and stuff like that. But there's an option here. The first bar right here says save as a PDF, right? And so if that's not an option on your screen, you'll want to click on the arrow and scroll down till you see save as a PDF, right? Because we're not really trying to print this. We're just using the print function to save it. And so once I click on save as PDF, I'm going to save this. I'm going to click on the lower right of that window. It says save, and it saves, and I can give it a title. You know, I think I'll just leave it because it says Maymay's Cookie and Creamery. I might say receipt or order number. And I'm just gonna, and then it's already, looks like it's already on my documents right here. Now, if it was easier for you to find, some people like to save it on their desktop or something like that. Whatever folder you want to save it to is fine. But I'm gonna save it to my documents and just save it. And now I have it saved. So if I ever needed to pull up that receipt for whatever reason, or you know, if I didn't get my package, but I called the business and I said, here's the verification code, you know, I'd just go to my documents and then pull that up.
You know, on that example, I didn't see a verification code or a tracking number, just the dollar amount. Would that be sufficient? But
yeah, so I didn't purchase anything.
Oh, of course. Okay.
So I just used the order.
Understood.
As a thing, but like, yeah, usually what I do is at the end of the process, when you do get your verification of these cookies for $30, then you can print and save, and then I'm just showing you that it puts it into a PDF that you've stored in your computer.
Right, that makes sense. That's a good tip.
Cool.
Great.
Any questions on that, Janet?
No.
Okay. That let me see. That about does our training here.